This is an MPS special report. Now let's go live to our MPS studio.
Hello and welcome to another MPS special report. I'm Braxton, and of course with me today is Hannah. Today we will be meeting a new face in the Malcolm community, our new temporary school resource officer, Deputy Gress. She will be replacing Deputy Pitts for a few weeks while he is out. Welcome, Deputy Gress. Would you like to say a little bit about yourself?
Okay, yeah. So I have been in law enforcement since 2004. I started with the Lincoln Police Department, and then I came over to the Lancaster County Sheriff's Office in 2008, and I've been here ever since. I was an SRO for 6 years at Waverly High School, and I just recently got married, so most people know me as Deputy May, because that was my maiden name, my previous name. And now it's Deputy Gress, so it's still really hard for me to even say my name. I say Deputy May a lot, actually. And I have a 24-year-old stepson, a 22-year-old stepdaughter, an 18-year-old stepson, and twin 14-year-olds that were mine. So,
cool.
Awesome. Yeah, nice big family. Yes.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. You told us a little bit about being an SRO before and just your experience in law enforcement, and do you have any specific experiences you would like to share with us today, or anything at all?
Yeah, so I think you wanted a more fun story, right?
I guess.
Yeah.
So. Whatever you're up
to. We were talking earlier, Mr. Mahoney and I were talking earlier about some of my ride-alongs that I've had. When I first started in law enforcement, my mom, she didn't really want to go on a ride-along with me. My dad was super stoked that I was a cop, but my mom was really nervous because I'm her little girl. So like, for me, it was like, okay, I want to show my mom what I do. And it was during the day, so it was a little more laid back. And I pulled over a car at 48th and Normal. And the guy ended up having a warrant. And so like I grabbed all the guy's stuff and I run him and I find out he has a warrant. So I'm like, sweet. So then I go up and I arrest the guy and come back, get him into cuffs, bring him back and put him in my cruiser. There's a partition up in my cruiser, okay? And it's closed. And I go do the inventory search of his car, and we end up removing the car because it was at the Wendy's parking lot, so you have to tow the vehicle.
And so was Frosty privileged?
I brought him to Frosty, but he didn't get him.
Really nice.
Yeah.
Here's your ticket to jail, but have Frosty.
Yeah.
Here you go. Bye.
So then I take him to jail, and I get back. And my mom was so mad at me. She's like, I cannot believe you did that. I cannot believe you put him behind me in the back of the car and I had to sit there alone with him while you went and searched the car. And I'm like, Mom, there's a partition. You were fine. And she's like, he was right behind me. So she's still to this day, after that, she's like, can I go home now? Like, I don't ever want to go on a ride along. She just had no interest. So for me, that was important because you always wanted your parents to kind of see what you do for a living. So that's one of the more PC stories that I can say to high schoolers. Yes.
Well, you mentioned earlier that you were an SRO somewhere else.
Yes.
I believe it was Waverly, correct?
Yes.
You want to kind of talk about that experience there?
Yeah. So in 2013 to 2020 is when I was an SRO there. And I loved it. Like, I worked mostly patrol my entire career in law enforcement, mostly third shift. And when I started as an SRO, I was like, gosh, I don't know if I'm gonna like this. You just never know. I'm not the kind of person that likes to be bored. So I was like, okay, well, how do I do this? So I would just go into classrooms, math classes. I went to every class. Home ec was my favorite, or FCS now, I guess, because I love food. So it's like, oh, you can eat food. I'll make food with you. So just getting to know kids for me was the best part of my job. Like, a majority of my job is being like a counselor to kids, because we don't go in as law enforcement officers into a school thinking, gosh, how many tickets can I give to kids today? Like, I like to be the educational side of it and to just show kids that I'm a person too. Like, you know, I'm safe to talk to if you have problems, if you have anything you want to talk to. That was what's important to me. And I just got an email yesterday actually, from another student from Waverly that wants me to be a letter of recommendation. So for me, like that positive impact that you have as a law enforcement officer with kids is huge for me. So that's what I loved about it.
That's awesome that you're inspiring, and
you hope you're inspiring.
Yeah, exactly. It's awesome for you. And
yeah.
something that's really inspiring for me personally is seeing women like you in the workforce that may be in workforces that aren't as women dominated.
Right.
So do you have any specific experience with that or any challenges with your gender?
Oh yes, absolutely. When back in the day, in 2004 when I started, there was a lot, because I think there were 3 of us females, maybe 4 of us females on a huge department. And I remember my first altercation that I got into. I was fighting with this girl, and she gave me a run for my money. And I was able to get her into custody, but my backup was standing by the door. And I said, "Where were you on that?" And he goes, "Well, I just wanted to see if you could do it." And so I walk by and I'm like, "Well, are you satisfied?" So for me, like, you've always had to prove yourself a little bit more, because it is a male-dominated career. And yes, there are things that women aren't as good at, but I feel like we are really good at other things too that sometimes may not be portrayed very well, like talking and downplaying situations, and verbal judo is what I call it. I'm really good at that. So for me, just proving that I can do it. I've always been very, very stubborn though. So like my entire life, ask my parents. And I, like, if anybody ever told me like, "You can't do that, you can't be a cop." So for me, I was like, "Well, yes, I can. Now I'm going to do it really good." So that's how my mentality has always been. And I just like to be inspiring other girls. Like when I started here the other day, a little girl came up to me. She's like, "But you're a girl." I'm like, "Yeah, you could do it too." And she's like, "I can." So for me, it's just showing that you can, and we're pretty good at it too.
That's
so
awesome.
Yeah,
I think that's great.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, to wrap this up here real quick, do you have anything that you want the Malcolm community, the students, to know about you, or anything else really?
Yeah, I'm not scary. I like to talk to kids. I like putting myself out there. That's why I try to go out during your guys' lunches, and I stand by the register so I can say hi. And because some people find law enforcement intimidating, I don't want anyone to feel that way here. Like, come talk to me. I like all sorts of different things outside of work too. So yeah, I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to get to know some of you kids, and hopefully Brian takes his time getting, Deputy Pitts takes his time getting healed so I can stay here as long as I can. But yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Well, thank you very much, Deputy G, for being
here
today. Well, we'll see you around school, and hopefully, because of this, more people will say hi to you.
Yes, I hope so.
Thank you, and see you later.
Thank you.
This has been an MPS Special Report.
Right?
Your secret rapper.
That could be my rapper
This just
name.
in, she's a secret rapper. 3. Go.